All right, so I'm gonna start today's class by showing some pictures of the human body and the skeleton and the pelvis. So what we're going to do, I've posted on the group on our Body Mind Guild Slack channel this video of developmental patterns and basic neurocellular patterns. So what are these? These are somehow the DNA information in movement that we share with like 90% of the vertebrae. So before, we had a pelvis, we had, a perineum. Before we had a perineum, we had a navel. So these are, and throughout the way, there's so many different variations of a navel, a perineum, but somehow when we're talking about the spine and we're talking about also deep movements and deep patterns that our cells and our body on this state of evolution, they recognize, and they are to be experienced, and they can be experienced through somatic dance and somatic practice, and they can act in a therapeutic effect in order to kind of understand better certain locking, certain pathways that we have closed. I think like the pelvis is a very interesting example, and we're going to test some basic neurocellular patterns of movement, but we're going to start just with a little bit of visualization. And I think it's very interesting, that we talk a lot about somatics, right? So what is somatics actually? Somatics is very much so the idea of, oh yeah, wait, I had these history. Here we go. Skeleton anatomy. So first we have this somatic is basically this idea or vision that we have about things that happen in our body, the idea of the movement that we do, and a lot of that comes from the proprioception. So this notion and this idea of what we have, that what we have inside of us. So we could say that anatomy is kind of like the science of exactitude and precision on what is in the body, and somatics act as the many times subjective way that we perceive our own bodies. So I'm going to give you an example. We're going to look here at this skeleton. Very sorry, I had this already, but and I want to just show here the pelvis. So, you've seen a lot of times like this skeleton, right? Maybe you've even seen it in the class. And we have here the the iliac crest, and here the humerus. And here we have the sacrum, the coccyx, the perineal, which is then kind of the end of our spine, the end of our nerve connections. But have you ever noticed that this image that we have is tilted? Because if we then, let's take this thing here. If we look then at a pelvis, when we notice it here, let's look at the real pelvis. The pelvis is like how do you say? The pelvis is not tilted. The pelvis is under, so our spine ends. And this idea of tiltedness is what creates a lot of times this perception of movement that we have, that, we're like this. And, when you sit on a chair or when you sit somewhere, you kind of move it back, but you create this. So there's always this position for the pelvis to be a little bit tilted. And that comes solely because most of the imagery that we see of the skeleton, our somatic perception of the pelvis is just tilted front. So we unconsciously do it. So I'm going to invite you to just stand up, and we're going to touch our pelvis, really feel the iliac crest here. Touch your sit bones, which are these two bones that are really the ones that I talk a lot about. They're really here, your pubic joint, and let it let the pelvis sink. Just use this idea of using your breath and really this idea again of like total vertical, so that many times when I speak about the spine being like an anchor, if we have this, then the anchor is not gonna go vertically to the depth of the ocean. The anchor is gonna create a diagonal. So just for yourself, try and just see like how that recalibration really creates like a very, very particular. Oh, sorry, I'm still sharing. So, how does this create this very particular feeling of relaxation that somehow also goes to your lower back? So, keep on sensing and keep on walking, transferring the weight. Do it gently. And really try to sit on your pelvis without tilting it. Keep on breathing, but don't let the breathing be guiding, but let the pelvis guide the breath. How does it feel? Does it feel any different? And as you practice this very, very gentle transfer of weight, take this opportunity to understand this moment as a moment of almost self-tuning, like coming together and releasing an image and making an active somatic effort to change. So the pelvis is not, we're not Donald Duck, like there are many animals that, walk like this, but that's just not how our body is made. And it's such a little different. And maybe at the beginning, it might even feel like that you're just being kind of, what's the word? You're just being like lazy, or you're just not taking care of your posture, because it's such a thing. But as you allow your diaphragm to follow and really kind of reclaim that space, it's really interesting, no? How do you feel, Vivek? It's such a little shift of perception, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find it, but I'm tuning in.
So let's do it really kind of together, right? So just place your hands here, and like it's the point where your buttocks kind of start. And then if you kind of go under, this is the end of your spine, right? So with our lower back, with this kind of idea that a lot of times, do you know where when we say like, okay, stand up straight, when you think the word stand up straight, there's an immediate almost like tensing of things that happens here. So the invitation is to not have our pelvis, our perineum at the end of our body or at the front so that it slouches, but actually to release it and let it fall in the middle of our body. So that's the release. And you'll feel as you release your stomach and you release your back, and really, touch it again if you need to feel that this is the end of your spine. So it's hanging and it's super, super well protected. It's super well supported by the iliac crest, which is these discs. And so touch these discs here, the kind of waves, the crest, the creases of the hips. These are your iliac crest. They're holding it together. So with the stress that we have from sitting, we accumulate so much stress here. So what does it feel to release and let it fall in the place that it's rightfully so? Let's do another exercise. This one is just also visualization first. Vivek, you can keep on, I think during the class, you can keep on playing with that sensation. It's not a thing that you in any moment have to disconnect, right? Because as we continue the class, we kind of try to put on more and more of the somatic notions into place. So for example, even if I'm here, I can, still practice that extra release and in any position really. So I just wanted to show you this. This is actually this was here in the hotel room, which I found very interesting. And once we look at this, we see it as like a really big, like kind of knot twist and stuff. But it's a shame you cannot touch it. It's soft. It's velour. So this is a kind of very good example of the matrix of this ligaments that exist between our muscles. They're very tight, but as I pull this, if I start pulling, and if I know where the point is and I see it rather as a whole, as a full thing, it really kind of comes out very nicely. So, what we are doing with movement, rather than tensing, as we slide through, as we move, we can move and glide to one thing very, very easily. Because in the end, our movement from, the tip of our toes to the top of our head is one thing that is being moved. So this is just one idea, like a somatic energy. If you can imagine this actually being your muscles and your whole body unfolding through it. So we're gonna do another visualization exercise. You're gonna lay on the floor and you're gonna find kind of sitting on the side, like laying on the side of your body. And we're going to close our eyes. And we're going to go back to that notion that we just spoke of the middle of the body. So try to move your awareness to what's on the center. So not in the front of your face, but behind the face, your teeth, your larynx, your throat, your vocal cords, the spine, which is protruding through your body, through the middle, but even between the spine and the organ. So visualize your organ and relax your tummy and really come into the connection of the middle of the body, the space in the middle of the body. and realize that the space that exists, even though it's locked in and apart from the rest of the world, is also part of the space, the big space. So it belongs to it. And now let's try to do this exercise. We can do it a couple of times to each side, but let the space bring you to the middle. Just let that space bring you to your knees. It's a weird feeling, but it's almost like we're always thinking of our arms and our outside, but what if it's the inside moving us through? So our organs, and it has this quality of being very, very, very light. Try the other side. And really take the time before you do it to sit and let gravity hit you, put you closer to the floor, and close your eyes and notice the differences that exist in each side. We're creatures of sides, we tend to have one side more developed than other. But the force that we are doing is really not the side, but the center. So we would like to put kind of a name or an area as well that is very involved in the center is the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is everything that happens when you're breathing. So as your necks expand, as your lungs expand when you breathe in, your lower pelvis goes down and creates a space for the lower diaphragm to go down as this goes up. And that's the same intrinsic force that then creates the breathing out. Try a few times by yourself that and really focus on the spine and the space in front of the spine, the space in front of the vertebrae, the side of the vertebrae, and the space that exists in this body. And let the space bring you up. Does that feel different
It does.
in any way?
It does.
It's a lightness, like the space within moving, rather the organs moving, rather than the muscles and the bones. And I mean, obviously the bones and the muscles are working, but where actually does the movement start? It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
So now that we have this, we're deep in our pelvis and we're aware of our sides. Let's go to back to our navel because we were starting to talk about it. And let's talk a little bit about navel radiation. So if we would go back, let's say, I don't know, like a very big number, like 700 million years backwards in our DNA. So we go all the way, we're forwarding back, we're pushing back our DNA evolution, and we have the navel. So we're looking at this primitive creatures like sea cucumbers that then on gave place to amphibians and fishes. One of the things that created movement was the ability of radiation. from your navel. So your navel was inwards at a certain point, and it's sort of the core of the body. We talk about it a lot in other classes, uh, as the strength from the core. But this is really, you know, it was sort of like the beginning of movement. So everything started when this like sea cucumber that is us right now, was maybe tired of being in the coral, wanted to explore, and it started radiating, you know, because movement starts with, a wish, a desire, an intention. So this single cellular or more complicated cellular beings starts emanating this desire to move. And with millions and millions of years passing, this navel becomes movable. So let's just start to, you can open your feet in a comfortable starfish position and your arms around. Let's not try to move them. Let's imagine that they're not, take away all the stress, and let's just radiate from our right to our left with our navel. So we try to go right and we try to go left, right and left. And what you can try to do it to really go from the depthness of your navel. And as you try to go towards the right, you're gonna notice that as one side gets bigger, the other one contracts. And this is the first of our navel radiation. The desire to move that is in the center of the body brings us to a movement. So maybe at this point, we are not really able to walk or to make decisions, but we can, brush away the sand that is around us. And in a few days, the sand will move and we will move with it, maybe protecting ourselves. And as millions of years evolve, we this time start, going a little bit more overboard. And maybe we develop enough naval strength, core strength to go to the side and maybe raise a little bit our head, or, raise a little bit our feet and come back. And maybe we can slowly start dreaming of one day standing up. So just explore the side to side, from left to right. Feel as when you know, go a little bit more to the side. You're almost flipping, but don't flip just yet because we're not there yet. We still don't have all the movements. We are just a desire. So for a little bit more, come to the center, legs and feet relax. And now this mechanism through naval radiation not only goes side to side, but it goes upwards and downward. And it goes up and down. And by going up and down like a little worm, it kind of starts being able to walk, travel. We're not even walking, we start to be able to travel backwards and forwards, but it's still such a strenuous thing just to move. If, you know, our predators see us in the open, we don't have any chance. But that means that maybe that we, you know, we stick to the rocks or to the space in between rocks, and we hurdle, we are alone, and we protect ourselves. But, at this point, and of course, every movement you have to think it's like 100,000 years. You start seeing that not only you can move side by side, you can move front, and maybe at a certain point you can start holding, you know. So you can hold the upper side of your body or the downside of your body. So that's when the upper body and the lower body are born. So you're not just this mass, you have already, you not only just, being aware from the navel, but you start building enough neurons and connections so that your upper body starts being able to move separated, and then maybe you can grab some food, or you can move. And in one moment, whilst you are doing this, you go so much that you flip. And now you were able to twist, try to flip again. But what happened here, when you were able to go from one side to the other, is that you can stand on two planes now. You can stand on your back or on your front. I'm just gonna pivot here. Our creature is still not that evolved, but as we, are able now to be on our stomach or on the primitive version of our stomach, we can start incorporating, different movements here. And we first have like sides, and we finally have, a rotation, counterflexion. So we are able to, with time, move and move, and millions of years go, and we split on two sides, and at one point we're gonna come to our fourth. And how many millions and millions and millions of years have passed for that? So just enjoy recognizing these basic neurocellular patterns and these developmental patterns. Because not only we can connect with our ancestral memory of movements, of the thing that binds all the living creatures in the world, but as you understand these movements, maybe your compassion for other beings, and therefore compassion for others, becomes greater. I want to go back to just one point here. Yeah, so this one, how I want to just show you, go like a little bit forward in our evolution, and I just want to show you one neurocellular pattern, but this one is already, this one is very interesting to try, and we want to do a little improvisation with music to it. and this one is called the mouth thing. So, today, since I want to I want to go through a lot of different visualizations, we're gonna go a little bit more like try. So, yeah, so we can then in the next sessions really go deep into like each and every one of them. And this one is related with babies, with mammal babies. So if there's one step that happens when a baby is recently born, and maybe I got very excited with this because I just became an uncle again. So, we have at our house like a very tiny baby, like he's not even a month yet. So one of the stages that the baby passes, that any mammal baby passes, is the mouthing stage. And this is very, very important because it can either happen when the baby is being held by the mom, and or it can happen also when the baby is hungry. And the mouthing is simply a reach with the mouth looking for the nipple. So we are talking about something as basic as like reaching forward. And if it would be in this position, it would be, and this is very, very important in our development, and it holds a special place in my heart or in my practice, let's say, because when I started studying body mind centering, um, I've really struggled with mouthing, and it was something that when I was doing it, I kind of was like, wow, like why is this taking me to such a place of like it was just very, very trippy. So the to train mouthing is very simple, and I want to do like a little bit of it now with some music. But for me, when I was struggling and then spoke with my teacher about it, she told me, do you know whether you were, how do you call it, like if you had formula or you were breastfed? And I found out, I asked my mom, and she told me that I wasn't breastfed. So what happened was that I missed this stage of evolution. I was doing it, but I never, since I was never breastfed, there was a part of this practice or of doing this neurocellular pattern that really struck on me because it was almost like a new experience. So the idea is really very, very simple. We are just gonna, we can stand on this position or in another position, and the idea is just the movement starting from the mouth and connecting this idea of reach and somehow with this movement of reaching, connecting towards your intestines and your gastro system. Because in this stage, like the baby's digestive tract is still under development, so it needs this pushes, this inner body pushes to create elongation. So let's just try a little bit. Let's zone off. I'm gonna play some nice music, and we can explore mouthing. This one. Find the position and be free to change. Reach with your mouth. Activate your digestive tract. Explore the space with your mouth. Keep your mouth open. Reach with your jaw. Okay. Come back here. How was it? How was it to be led by your mouth?
It's good. Yeah. Definitely feel a different sensation, and the tie back to the intestines as well was an interesting cue. Could tell the difference from
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. I have a whole section about like baby movements that we have that I want to get into it a lot, and it's very interesting because like it's in body mind centering. Of course, it's not been, what is scientifical. I mean, this is very experimental. We're just playing with the notions and ideas that we have of the images and things, but then we are looking at also like the primordial movement. So there's another one that is, when a baby, with natural birth, when it pushes out and comes out of the vagina, and it's through this protuberation that exists in the forehead, and it comes because, the baby before is, in this position, in a fetal position, and then there's a moment that, the baby turns, and the baby actually, and this is why, giving birth is so painful. The baby pushes through the head, but it also has that first, because, it's been curled up for the whole third trimester, right? And then it's curled up and it's gathering this, core energy, this navel radiation, to at a certain moment be able to, with the contractions, use their little fit and push, and that's like, it's that full connection of, you know body and mind and intention and birth and miracle that kind of creates movements. So one of the things I actually wanted to, because I notice a lot with you, Vivek, um, is what I really want to train with you, specifically you, because we've been doing this together for so long, is this connection as a whole. So, for example, when let's go here, right? I'm here, right? And when I wanna, like, all right, so my hips are relaxed to one side, and I wanna come to this side. So look, everything comes one after the other, and I rise. But if I'm here, let's say I'm here, like, if I'm connected from my feet, from the sole of my feet to my head, I can come together as a whole. And I'm never, disconnected. I'm never this inefficiency. So you wanna let's try some visualizations of that and see how it can be different. And then let's try to do the side one again, because I think it would be really cute. So just first of all, let's go to this, active rest position, and let's let's go through everything, right? So we have this, untilting of the pelvis that allows us to kind of put our whole pelvis and our perineum and our lower back kind of having this nice massage on the floor. And like, just another wonder is like your knees and your feet, like, none of this needs to be tense. Like, your tendons and all of your joints, they're just holding, your skeleton together. So there's nothing here. Like, everything is light. The skeleton is simply doing what it's meant to do with the gravity that it was made. And it's that moment that let's think of the tip of our hand, of our right hand, and let's think of the tip of our toes, and let's move as one. And just try it for yourself. Move as one. Through the navel radiation. Really feel that connection. Go back to the active rest and try the other side. Like, keep the connection. Keep. And the same going down. Everything is the same thing. It's like that big knot. It was still, if you would just unravel everything, it would be one big structure. So play with that. Play with being whole, with moving as one. And travel a little bit. Let's stay for this sake between, the floor and the low level. But practice this togetherness that comes from moving as a whole, moving as a whole, without tensing, with involving every single part. If a movement, for example, starts in my leg, it doesn't mean that my arm is not super involved with it. And it's actually easier, much easier to move the whole body together than to think about fragmentation. Do you feel a difference when you pull the attention towards that?
Yeah.
Is there a lightness maybe that comes from being able to think of it not so much complementary, but more of a sort of radiation outwards and inwards? So this expanding and collecting. Really beautiful stuff. So try to, as we move, abstract in space, right? Because there's no intent. The intention of the movement is not where it goes, but rather how efficient it is and how much it provides harmony and easiness to grow. So try to stand now. Come to standing. Stand up, obviously, as a whole. And I want to show you another use. I think we're we're almost done here today, but another very interesting use that we can have of everything that we learned, right? So we have, and we want to keep our mic on now because we have, we've recalibrated our pelvis, right? And we've also have our digestive tract, the longest tract aware, and we are moving as a whole. And one thing that is really that a lot of opera singers know, and for this, I'm gonna recommend you to take your socks off because it's very important. We're gonna try to talk right now and or sing even if you want, but really place your hips and your feet in a very comfortable position. And now that we have this notion of the pelvis being in the right place, let's go back to what I mentioned about this upper diaphragm and the lower diaphragm. And when we speak, we tend to think that it starts here, but no, the speaking, the act of speaking starts deep in the pelvis, because our sound is like an echo chamber, right? So you can place like your hands in your pubic bone and your flexors here. And this is almost like, like imagine a big monument, and actually in the end it's just water. And when we speak, it kind of goes up from down. So just Just do a sound and really breathing deep from your stomach and imagine your voice and the sound ah. Let's say ah, for example. It just comes from the depth of your perineum, from the depth of your pelvis. So ah. Really coming from down. Also, when I speak, and see how light it feels all of a sudden in your throat. What a liberation it is. So again, just producing the sound ah. Ah. Relax and untilt your pelvis as you do the sound. Uh, Try Vivek. From deep down, from untilting, let the voice come and echo through your whole body. Let it flow continuously. Breathing deeply to fill up your pelvis and your diaphragm and yes, yes, beautiful. And now take a deep breath and just talk to me. Just say anything and have it come from your pelvis. Allow the transfer of movement to start. Do not allow the shifting to happen and allow the pelvis to untilt and creating space in your sacrum, in your joints, in your lower back. Fill up your stomach and uh, relax. When you do it, the good one good thing to have is in your you can have your hand here, your hand in your throat, and as you produce the sound, make sure that you don't tense your throat. So the sound is really kind of, like imagine wind, like the beginning of a tornado that it's in the surface and it goes up. So that's the imagery. Let's try to do it again. So uh,
Are you breathing in first to
I
get?
breathe in. Yes, yes, yes. Breathe in first. So like, and even go, exaggerate your lower abdomen. Really put it out. Like a balloon, and then from there make the sound happen. So and untilt your pelvis. Ah. So breathe in and produce the sound as it goes out. Ah. Without holding. So it extends. Relax your jaws. You do it so that the sound really comes as a wave. There's no obstacles there. So there's no like a sigh. A sigh is a great a sigh is almost like it's an emotional manifestation of our body needing to let something out. So this sort of breathing, this sort of like very expansive breathing is one type of breathing that we do, but that really helps us to kind of free and liberate the voice. Especially, like you and me, what we talk a lot with people. So maybe sometimes at the end of the day, you feel like pain in your throat, or you're tired of speaking because it feels like it's been all in the head. And this is just an exercise to let the sound, let the, the non-verbal communication, or, the tension just kind of come out with sound and producing sound as a sort of AD. So let's just do it one more time. Jump right into it. So fill up, and as you exhale, you produce sound. Can be any sound you want. Can be it can be a song. Something that you still don't know what it is. It can be a oh, Vivek.
Antonio.
Yes, exactly. But it's still, it really comes from the depthness. Yeah, let's just explore it a little bit more on our own. Now, if you focus also in the middle of your body, like the space that is like organ and muscle, and it's not the front or the back that you're speaking, you can also think of that being the place where the intention comes from. So you expand and then you contract to let it out. So you're maybe if I'm a little bit more tense, or if I tense it, the sound kind of relates that, but we let it kind of echo and we keep our breath from our mouth. And one thing I want you to notice as well and try out with me, Vivek, is since we haven't been like this for a while and we've been taking attention, try to just do this, like, from one leg to another. Doesn't it feel that your leg is kind of free at last from your hips, rather than, I'm moving my leg and I'm, moving my hips as well? But no, like the pelvis falls, so the leg is free.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, right. So they're not having to move like together all the time. So this could be great, a day that, like, maybe my sciatic hurts or like my lower back hurts, and but I still have to walk, so I have to go somewhere. So, I just remember that, like, my pelvis sinks deep, and so even though I'm walking and all these things are happening, like there's no tension happening in my lower back. Crazy stuff, huh?
It's really good. It's really, really good.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I think with this, and to finish off, I think I'm gonna play one more song and we do a little dance of 5 minutes or so. Cameras off. Keep on, like the body is the tool that we do this, and even the things that could be better, or the things that we're still stuck, it doesn't really matter, because like we are learning and we are being able to share and have like the privilege that it is to play with this, and to evolve and play with our bodies in such a like free way. Like it hasn't been like so many years that we, excuse me, all this intestine work also, provokes gases and things and all this movement to grow. But like, we haven't really been able as, society, we haven't put any attention in, you know, how it feels to be inside of our body. We've been rather kind of constricted to it. So this is very much a privilege that we have to do here. And this is a great way for us to kind of give up and let go of certain strengths and habits that we have. And yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking and start dancing a little bit. Here we go. And we're gonna do two songs just for the fun of it. Come back. Slowly, it feels so different, right? To move.
Yes.
It's such a liberating experience. So yeah, I think today was really kind of going in, very in and then out in a very playful way. Do you need like a moment to come back? Go to the toilet, drink some water?
Yeah, take a moment. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
can chat with you.
yeah, just 2 minutes and we can round up.
Okay. Let's see.
Hey, hey.
We could stop the recording if you like. We can just talk for the last five.
Yes, yes, let's do that.